Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart, and this is technical analysis of the stock market today. Today is Wednesday, November 12th, 2014. We're going to take a look at the markets the way we usually do, last 2 days of trading, and then check in on some of the global indices, Germany, Russia, India, China, and then look at Auto Home, some 4 Chinese stocks, Auto Home, QIHU 360, YOKU and YY. Okay, the Dow was down 2.7 points today. Tight range. Can't talk here. And 90 points here, intraday high to low, about 90 points. And little doji bars, 3 out of the last 4 days with dojis. I talked about how tight this was. You can see how the pattern is close to back in here, and also very close to, I think it shows up better on the SPX. Actually, back in June, it was kind of a similar type thing. But the number of days outside the Keltner channel here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days up on the high side of the Keltner channel. I haven't seen that. I mean, I got to go all the way back this year. Last time, this is the first time this year. Okay, the last time that happened was December 31st of last year, and that was 5 days. Okay, 5 days with consecutive closes outside the Keltner channel. And so here we are with 6. So we're at an extreme. We haven't had a pullback with this move. I've talked about how I think this pattern is telling me that we're going to have the next move to the downside. It may take a few days to get this thing to turn over. I mean, the market just doesn't turn on a dime. It's kind of interesting how, well, except down here, except when it did this little V move, which I don't know. We can go back and try to find how many V moves the market does, but I think that's fairly rare too. A lot of times it's W bottoms and M tops, and here, you had a little move, you were sitting here, then you had this final thrust, and this created divergence, okay? When you got this move, it created divergence. And so we'll see. We'll see what kind of, how it plays out. And we'll look at the high-low thing in a minute here, too. The S&P 500, similar type thing. Here's where I was talking about these little doji bars and the tightness of the S&P the last 3 days. Close to what was going on here. But then back in June, it got slightly tighter right in here with these 3 days, actually, between the high and low of the 3 days. So we'll see. This is at the top end of this little move here of the trend line. NASDAQ sitting up above this dotted line, and the NASDAQ may have a little bit more to go. I mean, it's hard to tell. When I look at these gaps in here, there's a gap here, gap here, gap here. I mean, you could almost, if you call this a runaway and this a runaway, you take the middle of that and you can kind of project. I think we might, we might have might be able to get up into here on the move. I mean, we'll just have to say, I was just ballparking that. I was kind of doing some estimating with that, not trying to get real scientific, because it honestly doesn't matter to me, where it goes in terms of what it's doing. I'm not trading the NASDAQ indice. The New York Composite, again, it's stretched a little bit above that retracement that we've shown before, how right about here was about 78.6, so it's pushed a little bit beyond it, but it's pretty tight. I mean, look at the small bars. Pretty tight little range in here as it's gotten near the top of the move. Russell 2000, we've talked about this trend line. It hit it, pulled away. Now it's up here again. Had a pretty good little move today, up 6.51 points. And where is that in terms of the, got above the September 3rd high. So that's pretty interesting that it's pushed above that high. It hasn't taken out the July high. Let me back off of this picture a little bit. Okay, so this is the topping that was going on in here. and then you've had this pullback to this this trend line. We'll see if this trend line holds, whether that holds the move or whether it continues to push to the upside. All right, short-term trading index. It's right smack in the middle again. The 10-day is just right in here at 1.036. And I'm looking at that on a little data window I've got off to the side. I don't like the data window to clutter the screen. The VIX broke out a little bit, 2-day high in here of the last 2 days, and but then closed back down, up slightly. Where was it? Up 0.1, but it was well below where it opened. Okay, so it opened up, sold back off. No divergence showing up yet. Let me see if I'm getting anything. Yeah, it's hard to tell anything there. Not a good picture there. The high-low is interesting. The net new highs, new lows, 98 more new highs than new lows today. Getting this to pull back, getting the 10-day to start rounding over a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see if this starts to pull down and we get this thing to cross again. Because if we get that to cross again, that will be a signal that something's happening. It's done it in the past, over the last year. A little choppiness in here, but you can just see once it's had a move. I'm not counting this kind of mess in here, but once it's had a move where it broke above, then broke down, that's kind of a signal to me. And you notice how back here, like in January, it broke above with the move in late December. Then it broke below it right in here, and that was January 16th. And then next thing you know, you had that pretty good little sell-off. And so we've seen that happen several times in the last year. And this clearly happened here on, what day was that? September 9th. Okay, so we go back to the Dow. September 9th, right here. Okay, so it started to cross. So the moving averages crossed on the high-low right here, and then we got one more little thrust to the high side, and then that was it. So we'll just have to watch to see what kind of action we get, right? It's really, it's hard to predict. All you can do is just, watch and see what it's telling you. All right, so we're going to take a look at the international indices real quick. I think that's next, the German DAX. Germany closed today down below the 10-day moving average. It's down 77.59 today. So it is going to be really interesting to see if we get any follow-through or not. And that's what's key. Do I get another close down below the blue line? Because right now you've got the 55 below the 233, the 21 below the 55, although it is rising some in here. So those three moving averages are aligned to the downside. And of course, it's been somewhat trending to the downside. So it'll be interesting to see if the DAX starts to roll over. That could start to signal, additional European weakness. Okay, MISEX, Russia. Russia's just hanging solid. It had this nice push. It's hanging up here. It's not showing any sign it's stalling out. Again, it's kind of like our U.S. market. In terms of the dojis up here, 3 out of the last 4 days. India continues to push to the high side. We're in this 5th minor wave up, though, and we'll see how far we can push in that. But again, this has been a very solid bull move on the Nifty 50. All right, and then the last one, the Shanghai Composite. Nice move today, come back, and actually last week. Look at this nice move of the last week. I've adjusted my count. I think I was looking for 5 to possibly be ending in here maybe. And let me look to see, but again, I think this is now pushing. This may be like 3 of 5 in here. Let me look at, yeah, we were getting some divergence, but it pushed right back up through that divergence. So that went away. Getting a little bit of divergence here on DI+. and on the demand index. So 2 out of the 3 are giving us some divergence on this move. So we'll have to, I'm not seeing anything else. We'll just, have to continue to watch this. China's, it's going to be interesting to see too, this whole thing with the Hong Kong and Shanghai stock exchanges connecting. And that's going to create, I think, a lot of enthusiasm. So we'll have to watch that closely. All right, the first one we're going to take a look at is auto home. Short term, we've had this break down some. Okay, so it was on a nice little short term trend, and they had the 10 above the 21, had a short term trend moving, and then we get this sudden breakdown in here. Earnings may have come out. I'm not sure. I don't track the earnings timing on this stock. It's not one of the stocks I trade options on. And so now we've broken down here. All three of my indicators I looked at are to the negative side. I mean, our RSI is below 50, DI minus is greater than DI plus, and the demand index is below 0. So all three of the negative indicators are negative, and we'll see whether it can hold this little trend line in here, which again, it's it's just a little trend line I drew in to see what happens when it gets down in here, and whether it holds or breaks on through that. All right, so that's it on, because really if it starts to turn, then where I'll draw is another trend line up here and see if it breaks and gets some kind of thrust up through here, but it's too early to even be worrying about that. It's got to start turning first. Okay, the next one is QIHU 360. And this one is continuing. We've got a little counter trend move that's going on. I think it's pulled back to this neckline. You've got the 55 pretty hard down, okay? 55-day simple moving average down at a 45-degree angle or so. Short term, yes, it's had this little counter trend move, but I still think that this looks like a pretty solid a large head and shoulder top. It hasn't even come close to the projected move that you get out of a head and shoulders. And then the other aspect of this is why I think this is going to, I'll be watching for this to peter out, is that when I think we had a complex WXY working here, and Y should equal W, and so here's W, you go back to the end of X and beginning of Y. Y doesn't equal W till down here around 54. Okay, so that would indicate we have more to the downside, but it needs to break down, start closing below this 10-day, and start rolling over. So we'll see if that starts to happen. That's what I'll be watching for. And then the next one is YOKU to-do. And I saw where that, I can't remember the name of it, but one of the Chinese smartphone companies has taken a stake, I believe, in YOKU to-do. They're trying to get a piece of the video action there. And with 600 million internet users, I think that's probably going to be pretty interesting. So this little move here with YOKU to-do is pretty nice. Nice little trend. It's kind of trying to think here. It looks like it's potentially running into some resistance right in here at this high. So we'll have to watch that. And then of course you've got another potential resistance in here, and you can almost create a little resistance zone like these previous where support came in and where the selling came in here in this area. So there's going to be a couple little thresholds that'll be running up in here to the 233-day moving average. So we'll see what kind of power. It's already come pretty far. 16 to almost 22 was the high, 22.5. So that's a pretty good move as it is. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at YY. I think YY is doing a corrective ABC. I'm going to stick with that pattern until something else really jumps out at me. There's a possibility. Now, if you draw a trend line in here, there's support showing up here. It's broken this short-term little trend line in here, so I'll be watching to see does it roll over. It's starting to get a couple closes below the 10 in here, consecutive closes. So this could be starting to break down already. And if it's if it's doing this ABC, because the B went back to the beginning of A, then I think C will come down here at least to the end of A. So down to this level at a minimum, which would mean we're coming back down to around 51, 52. We'll see if that's what plays out. So that's my best assessment of YY. All right, this has been Joe for Beyond the Chart. If you felt like the video was helpful, share it on social media. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Just click on the little red box and you can download the PDF I've got for you. And first name and email, it's easy to do, and gives you access to the Trade Ideas webpage and notification when I put out new posts and that type of thing. So, all right, have a great Thursday, Friday, everyone.